Okay, you guys, you're all listening to another episode of the All Records podcast. Today with me is the cosplayer Emerald Angel. Her name is Lacey. Lacey, why don't you introduce yourself? Maybe give a little bit of like a backstory to yourself, just something real quick.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Like you said, my name is Lacey. I am 19 years old. I've been cosplaying since 2013, so almost 4 years now. My first con was Animazement in North Carolina, and I'm just really excited to be here talking to you, and I'm excited to tell you all about what I've been doing in the cosplay community, especially with disabled cosplayers.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we're interviewing you today, is so that you can talk about how you're an advocate for cosplayers with disability. But before we really get to that stuff, you said did you say you're from North Carolina?
Yep, North Carolina.
All right, that's where Animazement is?
Yes, Animazement is in Raleigh, North Carolina, at the Raleigh Convention Center. This year is its 20th year, so it's going to be like an even bigger celebration than normal. But it's going to be my 4th year attending.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know a lot of people who are going to it. We tried to get a booth for it, but it was all sold out.
Yeah, they sell out pretty quickly.
Yeah, the anime cons are really hard to get into. A lot of them, they don't even put like an application online. It's just like a survey question, and it asks you like, what do you sell? And then you fill out the survey, and then maybe they'll get back to you.
Dang.
Yeah, it's pretty frustrating. So, all right.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's awful, 'cause especially like you just wait and wait, you know, and they read the message. So like, what are you waiting for? Just tell me no, so I can pick another con that day. You know,
exactly.
I have a convention right now that's literally holding like a $750 like deposit. It won't tell me if I have a booth.
Oh my gosh,
right?
That's a lot of money too.
Yeah, and it's the deposit, and like the full payment is due on the 1st of June. So
but they haven't even told you as to whether or not you'll actually be there. Well,
yeah, so it's like, are you gonna tell me like the day before, and then I can't get you the money, and then I'm not gonna get the booth? You know, like, I don't know. It's crazy. This is what happens when like corporations take over conventions. It's weird. All right, so what got you started in cosplay, I guess?
So I first started cosplaying my freshman year of high school. A friend of mine at the time, we had a few classes together, and she was really into, anime and cosplaying and stuff like that. And, I had never even heard of it. I was like, what? People dress up for fun? That sounds awesome. I want in. So then, she invited me over to her house, and she showed me what my first anime was Rosary Vampire. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. And then my second anime was Black Butler. So then my first cosplay ever was a really bad closet cosplay of Alois Trancy. I think it's really funny because my first cosplay ever was actually a crossplay because, I'd never done that before except for that one time. But ever since then, I was just like way into it. I was like, this is so much fun. And my first convention was Animazement.
That's great. Do you tend to make your own costumes, or do you buy out, or like what's your technique?
So I do a little bit of both. I am a huge fan of buying things and altering them just because I'm not huge on sewing. I do make some of my cosplays though, if I know I can handle it. If I know I can't, I'll totally buy something and still wear it with no shame. Because there's no shame in buying your own cosplays.
No, I agree. I can't sew at all, but I have a friend who is like a seamstress type person. And they're basically making 2 cosplays for me, like for this summer, because I couldn't. If it was me, I would just go to like a Party City, and just buy like a costume. But like I don't want to wear something that's wicked cheap either. Like I feel like it's a cop out, Mm-hmm. So maybe I can like get my friend business by wearing like an awesome cosplay that they made, and like promoting like their talents and skills.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm also a huge fan of just finding what's in my closet. I'm like, here, what can I use? Because that way, it's also more comfortable.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. She was trying to like measure me, and I was like, look, I was like, here's a pair of pants, here's a sweatshirt, just measure them, like, because that's how it needs to fit me, I'm like, measurements may not work properly. Here's my clothes. Just work with that stuff. So you said you started watching Rosario the Empire. What would you say is your favorite anime?
Oh my goodness, my all-time favorite anime. See, that's kind of hard because anime is one of it's one of my fandoms, I guess we could say, but I've never actually been super into anime. But I can appreciate a good one. I have to say my favorite, and I'll probably get shit for it, but I love Sword Art Online.
Sword Art's one of my favorites too. It's fine.
It's like my absolute favorite.
You won't get any crap from us about that here. I saw the new movie in theaters. Kevin, who used to be our engineer, he and I talk about how it's like probably one of the better like love stories like for anime. That scene when he like runs up the walls and stops the like massive group from like trying to like stop her from like doing that like boss battle is probably one of my favorite scenes in anime history.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's such a good love story.
Oh, it's perfect.
I love it. And I'm a huge like sucker for romance anyway, so I'm pretty sure that's what got me.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's great. I mean, there's some cheesy things like the little kid, like, the computer kid thing, kind of cheesy, I feel, but like the two of them together is so great.
Oh yeah.
Did you get a chance to see the new movie?
Yep, I saw it in theaters. It was fantastic. Oh my gosh, I cried several times because who wouldn't? Yeah, no,
it was so good. When you saw it, did it have like the voice actors and stuff? Like before the movie?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I got there a little late, but I managed to catch the very end of Asuna's voice actor talking.
She's like the cutest thing ever, right?
I know. I'm like, you literally are like the epitome of Asuna. Like,
yeah, it was great. I was like, I couldn't stop. Like I was almost crying because she was so cute. Like she was so happy and like talking about how like people are supporting Sword Art and how like good it makes her feel, and I was like, oh my god, this person is the cutest person ever.
Oh yeah, and then Kirito's voice actor, I was like, oh my gosh, like I never expected him to be like the voice actor for like Kirito because he's so quirky and hilarious, and Kirito is always like so serious. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah,
like he didn't fit the mold at all, but he was super cool too, like in his like the stuff he was saying. So, out of all your cosplays, what would you say is possibly your favorite one you've done so far?
Oh, gosh. Okay. So my most recent one that I made myself is probably what I think is going to be my favorite. I haven't actually worn it to a convention yet because it is so new, but it's my Ariel dress from the end of the movie when she's like walking out of the water and it's all like purple and sparkly. Yep. I'm a huge fan of sparkles, and purple's my favorite color. So that's probably my favorite, or going to be. But if I have to say one that I've already worn to conventions, my Black Canary cosplays are always so well received, and it makes me so happy because Black Canary is such a badass, and she's such a good role model for women and one of my favorite characters. So
yeah, I've seen pictures of it. It's really well done.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Have you ever had any difficulties or like I don't know, like things that you had trouble doing when you were making costumes, like anything that like slipped you up or like caused like setbacks?
I think the only thing that has messed me up quite a few times is that I think way too fast. So like I'm always wanting to get things done and get them done super quickly. And usually in the process of doing that, I will totally mess things up. I'll either sew something together that wasn't supposed to be sewn together, or I'll mess up my measurements, or just something will go wrong because I didn't actually take my time. That happens a lot.
That happens to me when I do like art. I'm not like, I try to avoid glue because I'm one of those people who, it's like a comedy thing almost. I'll get glue on my thumb or my finger, and then I'll touch something and that thing will have glue on it, and then that glue will touch something else. and then I'll have like pieces of paper stuck to every fingertip, and things just look dirty. Yeah, it's awful. So I try to like stay away from things I know I can't handle or do anymore because it's just ridiculous. All right, so one of the reasons that we're doing this interview is so that you can talk about how you're an advocate for cosplayers with disabilities. Could you just tell me a little bit more about how you got started in that?
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say that this is one of my favorite things that I could ever be recognized for because it does so much good for everybody. So as we know, in the cosplay community, there's a lot of love. Absolutely. There's so much, fun-loving people and, so much encouragement. But we also know that there is a very good share of judgment and hate. And, usually when we hear about hate in the cosplay community, it's for things like, I don't know, like sex or race or, like skill or accuracy, just things that don't matter, things that people shouldn't be, judgmental about.
Right,
because cosplay is about fun.
Totally.
And one thing that I noticed was that there wasn't really a lot of, how can we say, like, there wasn't really a lot of recognition for cosplayers that were disabled because, there are people that will completely get overlooked in their cosplay because they have a wheelchair or a cane or a scooter or a service dog, things like that. And, I know because I'm a disabled cosplayer myself. I have a chronic illness and then I have optic nerve damage. So I've got a lot of things going on. I can talk about that later. But as a disabled cosplayer, I know myself how hard it can be to maybe not feel like you're good enough or that you don't fit in or that you don't feel like you deserve to cosplay because you have these things wrong with you that you can't control. And I wanted to create a space where cosplayers like that could come and, vent or share coping mechanisms, things that help them and basically just give support to each other so people can get their confidence back. So I hosted my very first Cosplayers with Disabilities, You Can Still Do Great Things panel at Triad Anime Convention in Winston-Salem, North Carolina in 2015. And later that year, I hosted, more panels of the same topic at different conventions, and everybody afterwards, I always get so much thanks, thank you so much for hosting this panel. It was the greatest panel I've ever been to. I really feel like I can be myself, it made me feel better, stuff like that. And it just makes my heart so happy because, I'm actually helping these people. And it just makes me ecstatic. I've had people come to me asking like, hey, I want to host your panel at this convention. Will you moderate for me? I'll be like, heck yeah, absolutely. I'm happy that other people are wanting to spread the word just like I am. So I'm very excited, and I'll be hosting my panel again at Raleigh SuperCon, July 14th through 16th. So I'm pretty excited about that, especially because SuperCon is pretty huge.
Yeah, that's awesome. We actually may be doing a convention next year. If we do, we'll definitely invite you up here for it.
That would be fantastic.
If you want to make the trip. I mean, it's not that far, so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I mean, you're totally right about how, like, the conventions should be, like, a totally welcoming space, and it should be a safe space, and mm-hmm. But you're right, like, especially, like, on social media, you see so many people just, like, tear apart, like, cosplayers and outfits for not being, like, perfect.
Yeah.
And it's, like...
It's ridiculous.
It's totally ridiculous, because, I mean, how many people do you think went to school for, like, costume design? Like, most of these people don't. They do it because they love these characters, so why can't you, like, respect the fact that they love the same thing you love? Mm-hmm. Like, why do you have to tear them apart?
Exactly. There's absolutely no excuse for making it a competition. Like, it's not about that. It's not about who can do it better. Totally.
And then, I feel like with panels like yours, I mean, that's going to help make everyone improve kind of too. Mm-hmm. Like it's a good place for people to kind of meet people mm-hmm. who want to help each other or may need help or, I mean,
absolutely. And, one of the biggest goals about my panels is, the main reason is for people to be able to, come together and give each other support and all that. But it's also for getting awareness of cosplayers with disabilities. And I say this because most conventions don't have plans for disabled cosplayers. They don't have a department for accessibility services. They don't have, these accommodations. And it blows my mind because, there are people who are, in wheelchairs that may not be able to get through halls because, everyone's crowding and there won't be staff saying, hey, get out of the halls, or dealers will just be packed into teeny tiny rooms and, people that might have social anxiety or things like that won't be able to function.
Whenever we do conventions, I usually make a post, especially the bigger ones, saying that if you have social anxiety, you can always just come and sit at our booth, to get out of the crowds, because I have social anxiety, so I understand. And it's almost one of the reasons why I started doing booths, so that I would have a safe place, so I wouldn't have to be stuck in a crowd all day.
Absolutely, it's one of the reasons why I'm especially stoked for Animazement this year, because when I hosted my panel at Animazement 2015, which is, when I was first starting hosting all of these, there was a staff member in my audience, disabled himself, and now he's a good friend of mine. He told me that because of my panel, he wanted to do something. He was already on staff, which helped. So he was able to go to, the director, the board, and be like, we need to do something about this. In 1 year's time, they created an entire department, dedicated to cosplayers with disabilities. They put up signs in the bathrooms saying, don't use handicapped bathrooms as changing rooms. They taped off handicapped seating in all of the panel and event rooms. They sacrificed an entire row of dealers to make sure that the aisles were wide enough for people with wheelchairs.
Yeah.
They created what they call a serenity room, which is a silent and low-lit room for people that might have anxiety or, panic attacks or something like that, where they can come and just unplug. And I can tell you, just because of that space, so many people's weekends were saved, because they could be completely falling apart. And once they just have that time to themselves, they leave and they're okay. And I think that's one of the greatest aspects. And, we have stickers that you can put on your badges so that way staff knows to look for it. If you have something going on or if you have a disability, staff have been trained to be able to point out an actual service dog and somebody that might just be trying to bring in their animal, because that does happen. So I'm just super thankful for Animazement for throwing so much money into this department. And this coming year, next weekend, I'll be able to be on staff with them. I will be working in that department that I helped create. So it's such a great and intense feeling. I'm so ecstatic about it.
No, it's awesome. It honestly, just talking to you, inspires me. It makes me want to, look around at the convention, because I do a lot of conventions. So now it's I'm thinking of conventions like Boston and how packed it is and how no one in a wheelchair could go to that con. Mm-hmm. If they do, they're in trouble.
Exactly.
Because you cannot walk, and the aisles are probably 10 feet wide. But there's so many people that you can't get through. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't even imagine. And then so in my head, I'm listening to you, and I'm picturing how awesome it must be to go to that convention. And I'm wondering if they have helpers, you know what I mean? People who walk with people, you know what I mean? To clear rows and stuff like that, and I'm trying to see if I've seen that at other conventions, and I can't even picture it, anywhere I've gone. It's so
Isn't
crazy.
That crazy to think about?
Yeah.
There's literally nothing, for people like me, for people that are disabled. And, that's why my panels, I think, are so important. because that way, you know, people can be like, well, how can I do this? How can I start a department? You know, how can I bring awareness? I'm like, well, first of all, you have to make the need known. And then you have to be willing to put in work in order to make it happen.
Yeah.
You have to make it known, and then you have to actually, you know, volunteer. Or if you are physically unable, find people that are willing to help and to help create this. Find people that are willing to donate. It's not going to be easy, but, you know, it can definitely happen.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, like you said, it's not easy, but it's so attainable to do these things, you know? I mean, even like money isn't an option because there's so many grants out there that like these companies could get to like hire staff or get things done, you know? Like I work in education too, and like it blows my mind like that they don't even think about this stuff because there's so many laws that they need to be following that they're probably not even following, you know? Yeah, like I'm almost like, I don't even know what to say because I'm kind of like trapped in my head thinking about how like I never see it being taken care of. You know?
Absolutely.
I definitely know when we start planning our con more, which will probably be after Boston, I would definitely be in touch with you about things, you know?
Oh yeah, of course, absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's it really is like I just feel like I hope the people who are listening to this feel the same way I feel right now, you know, like inspired and like almost like I can't believe I never really thought about this stuff before, you know?
Yeah, and you know, that's the thing. Most people just don't think about it. Most people may not think about it just because it doesn't apply to them. And, you know, I'm not saying that that's, you know, like I'm not saying that those people are selfish because, you know, it's just not something that is commonly thought about. It's not something that is common knowledge to people because it's not brought up. Right. And that's basically just what I'm trying to change.
Right. It's like
trying to make sure that people actively think about it.
It's like what the actual term ignorance means. You know what I mean? Like it's not an insult to be ignorant. You just didn't know. You know what I mean? Like it's just one of those things where it's like giving someone pizza the first time. You know what I mean? Like they don't know how good pizza is until they have pizza, you know? Like like it's that kind of thing. You know, I had some friends come over from the UK one time, and like everything they ate, it was like, how did I live without this? You know, like you know what I mean? Like so it's like an awakening almost. Yeah, it's crazy. It's such a crazy thing to think about.
Absolutely.
But I'm definitely going to keep my eyes out at every convention I go to now to see what people are doing.
That's awesome. That makes me so happy to hear.
I hope everyone who's listening feels the same way. And if you go to a convention, maybe point it out to the people putting on the convention, you know, or bring it up to them. You know? Exactly.
Because, you know, hopefully staff will listen. You know, if you send them an email, just be like, you know, if you ask them, first of all, if they have, you know, accommodations. And if they don't, then maybe you should be like, hey, well, maybe you should get some.
Or
because there are a lot more people out there that need them than you think.
Oh, it's so true.
And, you know, by law, you know, the staff can't come up to somebody and say, hey, do you have a disability or something like that. But, you know, what Animazement does is our accessibility services department, like we have a desk right next to registration. Smack dab in the front of the lobby. You can see it. You can't miss it. So that way, people who may need something can come up and ask. Be like, I have, you know, X disability or X illness.
I wonder if
what
even
can you do for me?
I wonder if even in like the application process, because you know, like I don't know if Animazement does it, but like Anime Boston and stuff, you got to put all your information in to get your badges. I wonder if they even have that. Like, you know, do you have any accessibility issues or anything? You know, that way.
You know, I'm not entirely sure because, you know, for one thing, I don't even know if they're legally allowed to ask that. But I've also never like pre-regged a badge myself online, so I'm not entirely sure. But
I feel like it would make that process a little bit easier too. You know, like you could get like a special badge or whatever ahead of time.
Yeah, or maybe even not a question asking, do you have a disability, but like maybe like, are there any special needs that you may require?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, like definitely word it properly. Don't go with me. I'm from like near Boston. We don't have tact at all, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's a great idea. I didn't even think about that. You know, that would be such a smooth process.
Yeah.
That way they would automatically know and be like, okay, we need to do this and this and this.
Right. This is how many walkers we need, or this is how many, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I think, because I know the Raleigh Convention Center doesn't supply like wheelchairs or anything,
Right.
which kind of stinks. But, you know, I'm really grateful for everything that they've already accomplished. But I think they only have like 2 wheelchairs that are available. And when you think about it, that's really not enough. Amazement has an attendance. Oh gosh, I think last year it was like 18,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say 20,000. I think is around what it says on the website.
It's up there.
Yeah, like I said, it was definitely one of the ones I was trying to get us set up in because it's such a huge like turnout. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, we've kind of talked about this for a while. Is there anything else you want to say about? Are you starting like an organization or anything, or do you think you're gonna kind of go with it and grow what you're doing?
I'm hoping, you know, the more panels I host, the more awareness I'll be able to build, the more conventions will be able to recognize that accommodations are needed. I've never actually considered starting something as major as an organization, mainly just because I have no idea where to start on something like that. You know, I'm still really young. I'm only 19. Yeah. But I mean, I would definitely love to see something like this get on a much bigger scale.
I'll be honest. I mean, you can do it. I've seen so many people start like small things like this when they're like your age. I started All About when I was 20 or 21. I've seen a lot of people. I think like Tom's Shoes was young. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people start things. I think like a lot of these like grassroots type nonprofit, you know, social awareness things are started by people like your age. So.
Yeah, I would definitely love to find out some sort of way to like raise money, you know, for conventions that may need, like, you know, smaller conventions that may need accommodations.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Animazement's a huge con. They've got a high attendance rate, so they were able to sacrifice a few $1,000s to make this department. Smaller conventions may not have that. So yeah, I think it'd be definitely cool to find out, you know, some way to be able to like raise money for things like that, or start an organization that, you know, will continue to raise money to donate to conventions. That would be, you know, fantastic.
Yeah, I bet you could do it. I mean, if you need any advice or anything, feel free to ask me after like the interview's over, you know?
Yeah, of course. I appreciate it.
But I mean, there's tons of information online too. Like at a lot of like locations, they give grants for these kind of things, you know, so the conventions could probably apply for grants to offset these like services. Actually, in our space here, we work with a local nonprofit with adults with disabilities, and they come and use the space and they play games and do art stuff and things like
wonderful.
that. Yeah, it's great. And like, I always tell people I do that, and they're like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, I just hang out, you know, like you don't have to like save these people. They don't need your saving, you know? You know, you just, they're normal people, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I can't stress that enough, is that, you know, we don't need saving. We don't need pity. We don't need your apologies. We just need help. And it's okay. It's totally okay to ask for help. I think a lot of people struggle with getting over that, you know, primarily just because, you know, they feel like, I don't know, maybe they might feel ashamed of themselves or embarrassed, and they don't need to be, because there are so many other people like them out there, and they're not alone, and they can still accomplish success. So I think people just need to be able to understand that it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to accept it.
Yeah, and and it's okay to like be nervous about helping too, you know? Like as someone like I have a friend who is like 99% blind or something. Like her phone is literally like an inch from her face when she uses it because like she can't really see, but she's like a successful writer now. You know,
that's wonderful.
Yeah, like she's doing her own thing. Like she moved out of the States because, you know, where she was from wasn't really supportive. She moved to like another country, and now she's successful and she has like a kid and this amazing life, you know, and it's all because of like wonderful. Having a support system that helped.
Oh yeah, that's one thing I can't stress enough when I talk about when I speak during my panels, is that a support system is like the number one thing that you need. I would not have been able to accomplish everything that I have if it wasn't for, my family and my supportive friends. Like it's so important to have people that back you up, because that way, you're not alone. And that's very important because if you feel like you are, then things can sound really, really scary.
Right. That's the easiest way to not do things is when you feel alone or like when there's no help or there's no point,
Exactly.
All right. Well, was there any, like I was saying earlier, is there anything more you want to touch on, like this subject of like disabilities and anything? Did you want to talk about your, like, what's going on with like your eyes and stuff, or?
Oh yeah, sure. I can share a little bit about.
If you don't mind, I mean, it's okay. You don't have to.
Oh yeah, no, I totally don't mind. I mean, I've publicly spoken about it several times before. So, I'll first talk about the one that is has such a big impact on my life is my Crohn's disease. I was born with it, obviously, and I was diagnosed at 12. So I've been fighting this battle for almost 8 years now, and it's really rough. I've had a major surgery where they took out, not trying to get too graphic or anything, but they took out quite a bit of my intestines and stuff like that, and I was pretty much bedridden for almost like 3 months after that, just because it was so major.
Yeah, it's an intense surgery. I had a friend who had that done.
Absolutely, and Crohn's just has such a huge impact on my life. I can't go out and work. I used to work at a grocery store, but I had to stop because it was getting tiring being on my feet all day. I was fortunate enough to find a job where I can work from home. Like I was telling you before the interview, I am an online English tutor. So that has helped me tremendously because it's keeping my health while I'm also able to pay my bills.
Yeah, and it's like a rewarding job too. Like it's not, you know what I mean? It's not like bagging groceries. It's like you're making a difference in someone's life.
Exactly. So. And I want to be a professor anyway. That's what I'm going to school for. So it's like giving me experience and all that. But yeah, so Crohn's has just been really rough on me. I don't get warning when I have, flare-ups or anything like that. I have days where I'll wake up and I'm just so weak, even though I've slept the whole night before, and I just can't physically do anything. So along with a disease like that, it gets really easy to become very anxious and very depressed, feeling like I can't accomplish anything. The disease is both physical and very mental. It affects me on both levels. It's really easy to feel defeated. My medication process is very rough. I have to inject myself once a week with a medicine, and it hurts really bad. But I try to just keep fighting every day and try not to let it get the best of me, even though I don't really know what the future holds with my disease. And then the other thing I have is called bilateral optic atrophy, which is basically just optic nerve damage. I was born with damage on the temporal side of both of my optic nerves. It's basically the easiest way to describe what it does is that it's like having a really good cell phone, but like really bad reception. My eyes themselves are fine, but because the connection from my eyes to my brain is really bad, I can't see well because it's not your eyes that see, it's your brain.
So it's almost like a storm messing with like your TV.
Basically, yeah, it's like a storm messing with cable.
Yeah.
Because, your brain sees because it memorizes things, because, it memorizes what light has reflected off of, and that is how we see. Our eyes are just like the gateway. They're just the lens. It's, everything in here that does the work. And, just because my optic nerves are damaged, that signal can't get to my brain. So it's constantly trying to focus. Reading is very difficult. Just a lot of things are really hard. I can't drive. So that's another thing that sucks, because I'm just kind of like stuck in my house all day because I can't go out and work. Yeah. And I can't drive anywhere on my own. So that's kind of also where a lot of my cosplay happens, just because I literally have nothing else to do, but I have all of these, creative juices flowing, we can say. So I have this outlet, so cosplay has been like a coping mechanism for me over the years, which has really helped. But yeah, so basically both of my illnesses just make me feel trapped sometimes. And, because I know how hard my struggle is, I know there are other illnesses out there that could be so much worse. And, I can't even imagine how some people must feel, when they have to have like their legs amputated because of, severe arthritis or something like that. I know a friend of mine who has had to have surgeries, multiple surgeries, just because her joints are so messed up. But she still cosplays and she still tries to stay happy and stuff like that. And that's mainly just why I wanted to start this whole thing, just because I know how hard my struggle is. And I want to try to make everyone else's who might be struggling harder just a little bit easier.
That's awesome. It's really inspiring to hear you talk about this,
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
No, it's true. I hope people are listening and really getting something from what you're saying,
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Russ. I really appreciate that.
No problem. It's just being honest. Let me ask you a question, since that was such like a downward kind of thing. So you said you want to be a professor, right? What do you want to teach, and are you currently in school right now for that?
Yeah, so I live in Wilmington, North Carolina, so I go to UNC Wilmington, and I am currently on the track of majoring in geology. I love rocks. I have a huge collection of them, and everyone's like, wait, really? But I promise it's just more than rocks.
You're just going to be like Indiana Jones or something. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah. But I recently had to withdraw from 3 semesters of school because of my Crohn's. Oh. So that's another battle that I've had to, overcome and face, is that I cannot go to school full time because the stress, stress and digestive issues are automatically directly linked, just because we have one of our nerves in our body that connects our heart to our stomach. So when we get stressed, your digestive health gets worse. And my digestive health is already compromised. So when I get stressed out, it hits even harder. So I can get very sick very easily. And, that's also just because of my compromised immune system. But being in school full time was killing me. Like, literally, I was in the hospital because I was so stressed out and my stomach was flaring up, and I had to have, that's what led me to surgery. I actually started school as an opera major. Fun fact, I can sing opera.
That's interesting. It's very different. It's a very different major.
Yeah. And, that's just a whole nother story, but I've always loved science. And then I just really got into music my senior year. So that's why I had this kick, oh my gosh, I have to do music the rest of my life. But music is one of those majors where it's a constant competition, and I could not be around it. It was toxic. Everybody wants to be better than everybody else. And I'm just not about that.
As you know, All About Records started as a label, and we work with bands, and it bums you out after a while, how cutthroat it is. Even people you think are your friends or people you work with, they'll step right on your throat to get something they want.
Oh, exactly. Absolutely. And, also with music, just because, nobody has respect for the arts, I was taking 9 classes, but it showed up as almost like no credit, like just because music is so underappreciated in education. But we won't get into that.
Wow, that's crazy. Up here in Massachusetts, that wouldn't happen.
Oh, yeah, it was insane.
Yeah, I know. The school I go to, the art building is literally half music and half like fine art and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So unfortunately, because of that one semester, I had to withdraw. And that was when I first really felt defeated. I'm like, I can't even go to school because of my disease. So then that's when I switched majors, and I thoroughly really enjoyed geology. I've always loved science, and especially natural and environmental sciences, and also because I get to touch a little bit of what's in outer space, so that's always fun as well. But I also got really sick that semester, so like I withdrew in fall 2015. I managed to finish a complete semester in spring 2016, even though I still got sick. And then I had my surgery in July 2016. So then I had to withdraw from the upcoming fall semester. And then just because my health hadn't gotten better, I had to withdraw from this semester, spring 2017. So I've missed out on 3 semesters of college, and that always gets to me, because if I had been able to, go to school like everyone else, I would be in my junior year right now, but I'm still technically a college freshman because I've only completed 1 semester.
Well, I think
that's frustrating.
I think you'll do it. As someone who's been in college for over a decade, I think you can do it. Trust me. No matter how long it takes, as long as you want to do it, you'll do it. Oh
yeah, absolutely. I'm currently enrolled for next semester this coming fall, so I'm very excited. Even though I can't go in full time, which I've come to terms with. It's okay. Everybody moves at their own pace, and I just have to remember that.
Yep.
But I'll be going part time and only taking like 2 classes, so I'm going to be in school forever because I want to get my doctorates. But
yeah, that's how I feel. I keep telling myself, like, I'll stop after I have my master's. And then I say, I kind of want people to have to call me doctor.
Right.
So, yeah, there's that. There's that whole, like, do I really want people to have to call me doctor all the time?
I see. That's just an awesome perk,
right?
In my opinion. But yeah, so basically I just want to go to school to get my doctorates and be able to teach geology in college. That's ultimately my goal. Because, I love teaching. It's something that comes very natural to me.
I can see that. I think you'll be an awesome professor as long as you follow through and get there. For sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm one of those people that's very ambitious, and I will accomplish anything and not let anybody stop me.
Yeah, I can tell. I mean, the fact that you, like, got conventions to do panels on, you know what I mean, like cosplayers with disability, and you're, like, moving forward, and you're not giving up on school, and you know what I mean? Like, you're still keeping busy with everything that's going on. I think you're going to achieve everything you try that you want. I totally see it, like, happening.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Besides school, do you have any, like, hobbies? Are you, like, reading anything? Are you watching any anime? Got
a lot of hobbies. I'm what we could call a jack of all trades. Like, I've already got cosplay going for me. I told you I sing opera. I also dabble a little bit in photography and art. I actually recently just picked up software for starting digital art, so that's exciting. I would love to have, like, my own webcomic one day. But I also, like, do modeling, and I love writing and stuff like that. It kind of helps to be, semi-good at all of these things, because when I'm stuck in the house all by myself all day long, I need to have something to do so I don't go crazy.
No.
But, I also love video games. My all-time favorite video game is Skyrim. I even have a Skyrim tattoo.
That's awesome.
But I'm a huge Netflix show binge watcher as well. I also love Game of Thrones. Clearly, if you've seen my Daenerys cosplay.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty much like the ultimate nerd, I guess. I love watching TV, and I love playing video games and doing all of these creative things. So
that's awesome. Yeah, man, I hope everyone who's listening is super like stoked on your story, and I hope that they keep an eye out for your panels, and whether or not the conventions they go to are like taking care of people properly.
Yeah, hopefully I can even start to host these panels at out-of-state conventions.
Like I said, you're welcome. Once we have ours sorted, I will definitely be in touch with you. So.
Oh, yeah, that would be awesome. That'd be fantastic. Because I would love to be able to start, like, traveling to different conventions and hosting these panels and trying to get the word out everywhere as much as possible.
I think we have a bunch of promoters from North Carolina, too, so we could probably find you a ride.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So you don't have to worry about that either.
You're the best.
Yeah, I try. Yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about? We've been talking for almost an hour now.
I know, that's crazy, but I think it's pretty awesome. We got a lot covered, and I really appreciate you having me.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you, letting me interview and talk to you. Is there anything you want to hype up? Your Instagram links, Twitter, any websites,
Sure.
whatever?
So basically, my two most active social media platforms are Instagram and Facebook. My Instagram handle is emerald.angel, emerald like the gem and angel like the being. And then...
like the Buffy angel or like an angel? Look, I'm a huge Buffy nerd, so like if you tell me it's because of Angel,
really,
I'll feel better.
I couldn't tell from the merch in your store.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's one of the greatest shows ever. I'm not gonna lie about it.
I'll have to watch that.
You've never watched
sorry
Buffy?
To say that I haven't before.
Listen, she's one of the strongest, most amazing female like characters in general. She's amazing. The first season's very cheesy, monster of the week. They didn't really have a big budget. But they put her through such an emotional ringer every season. I can't tell you how many times I cried watching that show. Like that's how good it was. I mean, if you know anything about like Joss Whedon, like he knows how to write to get you to care about characters, and then he kills them or like sends them to hell or dimensions, and you just get. I don't know. I could talk about Buffy forever. What?
It sounds like George R.R. Martin.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, it's nothing like Game of Thrones, but it's like a G-rated Game of Thrones with vampires and demons.
I could probably get into that.
Yeah, it takes a lot to get through that first season though, because the budget's real low and it's like 90s, and I think it was like shot in like on film, so it's still square,
Yeah, yeah.
But it's worth it. He when he wrote it. What he did was a lot of the creatures and stuff in the first seasons were kind of like teen issues, like he like dealt with things you deal with when you're in high school as like monsters, like one kid becomes invisible, and then they even had like a bell tower sniper episode about the kid who got picked on, and they won a bunch of awards because like characters, there's a lot of like LGBT characters, and yeah, it was very ahead of its time. And I think it lasted like 7 or 8 seasons, and then Angel was like a spin-off, and so.
I'll definitely have to get into that. Yeah, thanks for sharing that with me.
No problem. No problem.
But yeah, also, so in addition to Instagram, I'm also active on Facebook, and you can just look up my page, Emerald Angel, on Facebook. And I'm trying to expand my platforms this year because trying to keep this on the down low, but I guess I could announce it here. I'm going to be a cosplay guest at Fayetteville Comic-Con in October this year. So I'm really trying to kind of like build my fan base a little more and really get out there. So I'm trying to like build a YouTube channel. I really want to start like streaming on Twitch and stuff like that. So if the people that are listening follow my Instagram and Facebook, they'll definitely be able to stay updated on what I'm doing as far as more social media platforms in the future. That's
awesome. That's great. I hope everyone does that. Today I looked up you on Facebook to try and have questions to ask you and stuff, so that it wouldn't be boring. But you had so much to say, I didn't really need to, need to look it up. But yeah, thank you again for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I guess that's it, unless you have anything else you want to say or talk about.
No, that sounds good to me.
All right, I guess that's it.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Russ.